Here we are again, once again. This is the Alpha Male 2.0 podcast. I am Caleb Jones. This is Alpha Male 2.0. Dating multiple attractive women all at the same time with no lying or cheating or drama. Location independent income through your own location independent business. Living the freest lifestyle a man can possibly live in the collapsing Western world in which we find ourselves. I am, as I said earlier, the amazing, the stupid, the flawed, the perfect Caleb Jones. I'm also the low emotion scale Caleb Jones. So in this podcast, I'm going to talk directly to those of you who are like me, those of you who are lower on the emotion scale in terms of your personality. All you sociopaths, all of you INTJs and similar. We're not the only one. There's always a single lock of hair that gets right in my forehead. Anyway, as many of you know, I am very low on the emotion scale. I am low on the empathy scale. I am low on the reactivity scale. I don't get mad. I don't get scared often. I almost never get scared. I get irritated like anyone else. I don't lose my cool. I don't have a big temper. I don't get jealous hardcore for women. Now, with my lifestyle, you really shouldn't. But even before I lived a non-monogamous lifestyle, I wasn't a super jealous guy. I don't get worked up about shit. I get happy. If I have trouble in my life or if I have an amazing day, I'm still a pretty even-keel guy. That's just my personality. And that's just, something you're born with. And it's interesting, and some of you who have lower emotion scale personalities will relate to what I'm about to say. If you are more balanced in the middle of the scale, which they call balanced, or if you are overly emotional, because we got some of you fuckers too, don't we? Yes? Then you will have trouble relating to this. So I'm speaking specifically to those of you guys who are on that side of the scale. Tell you a little story. Give you an example. This will kick off many other examples I've had to go through in my life. I am low on the emotion scale. I am also higher IQ. I'm a smarter guy. When I was a kid, I was one of the smart kids. And when I was a kid, I went out to a resort, kind of a little resort, not a resort town, but so I lived in Portland, Oregon, and you have this place near Bend, Oregon called Black Butte. There's another place called Sun River. It is a low-end resort area, which was where some of the wealthier people in Portland go, and they spend, a few days there. You get a cabin, and you can go golfing, and you can ride horses, and it's very pretty, and there's mountains, and it's very nice. And I had a rich friend. I went to a Catholic school, as many of you know, for first 8 years of my childhood, and then my parents ran out of money. We went to the public high school. But anyway, I was in a Catholic school. This was probably when I was about, I would say 5th or 6th grade, so probably 9 or 10 years old, somewhere in there, maybe 11. I don't think it was 11. I think it was 8 or 9, or 9 or 10. And I had a friend, his name was David, and he was, like many of those kids at that school, he was wealthy. He was wealthy, his parents were wealthy. And so I spent the weekend with him where he and I and his sister and his mom and dad, we all went out to Black Butte for a few days because my family couldn't afford to do anything like that. We didn't have any money back then. And so we were at night, him and I were, farting around as, preteen boys do. And it was nighttime, it was by the lake. There was like a rec center with like arcade games. This was the 80s, so there were arcade games and everything was awesome because it was the 80s. And these two bigger kids, these two teenage boys, as we left, it was nighttime and there was very little lights. They came up behind us and they grabbed us and like pinned our arms behind our backs. And they're like, look at these two little fuckers. Let's go throw them in the lake and drown them. Ha 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 ha. Okay, so they started walking us toward the lake. And David was socially awkward, so he just smiled and didn't say anything. And I am low emotion, higher IQ, analytical type. So I'm sitting there saying, okay, I wasn't saying anything. I wasn't making any noise. I wasn't resisting. I was trying to pull a little bit, but there, when a kid is like 2 heads taller than you, there's not much you can do. Okay, you can't beat up a kid who's that much bigger than you. You try to run away, but they had us pinned pretty good. And so I started analyzing, and I wasn't scared, not really. I'm like, these are two dumbass teenage boys, all right. Look at this pretty analytically, and again, this is how it works when you're a low emotion guy. And I started thinking to other scenarios where I had seen other kids bullied. So here's the thing. In the 80s, getting bullied was a normal part of your childhood. It's when you were a boy. It's just part of the deal. Somewhere around the 90s, 2000s, it became this horrible epidemic, and now, oh my God, bullying is so terrible, and you just kind of just got used to it. We were just tougher back then, 70s, 80s, 60s. Getting bullied when you're a boy is part of growing up. And thankfully, I didn't get bullied very much. I had some friends who really got bullied bad in like junior high and high school, like horrible shit, like locked into lockers and had their heads shoved down into toilets and shit like that. Never had that problem because I was a bigger guy. But I had my fair share, just like every other boy when I was a kid. And so anyway, I had seen some of this happen. I had observed this in my class, my school, and things like that. And I started analyzing. And I said, if we just quietly sit here, if David and I just quietly sit here as they drag us out to the lake, these guys are bullies, and bullies need a response. That's what bullies need, just like haters on the internet. I've talked about this when I did a hater video on my Sovereign CEO channel. What is it that a hater wants from you? He wants a response. He wants acknowledgement. And he goes, yeah. What is it haters hate on the internet? If you ban them and ignore them, they can't stand that. So bullies are the same thing. If you just don't make a response, they hate that. And so what happens is they escalate and they keep being worse and worse until they start seeing a response. So I start thinking, correctly or not, I don't know. I don't know if I was right or wrong, who knows? But I was like, if we don't make some kind of response, they're going to keep escalating, and maybe they really will throw us in the fucking lake. And I don't want to get wet. It's cold outside. Fuck this. So I start acting. I start playing a part. I start going, no, let me go. Come on. And I start squirming around and acting like I'm scared. I wasn't scared. Not really. But I was just escalating, just using my logic to see if they would stop the escalation. Now, fortunately, I started squirming, and David's over there still smiling. Nothing happens. They take us to the lake, and they just throw us down the ground, and they leave. Okay, now, whether or not that was because I was squirming or making a ruckus, I don't know. But I had to pretend to be scared and pretend to not want us to, I had to pretend. I had to play a part in order to interact with other normal human beings who have things called emotions. And there's been many other scenarios in my life where I have had to do this. I have had to pretend to get emotional because if I didn't get emotional, I wouldn't get the response that I needed. And you might be thinking, well, this is very sociopathic and very analytical and very, this is part of human relations. Like, for example, I have talked about when you give the woman the talk, when you finally tell her you're non-monogamous, you verbalize that, and then you say it's a key part of the talk. If this is a deal breaker for you, I understand and I will let you go. And that's very powerful because she's never heard that from a man in her entire life. Men are like, please don't go. Oh my God, I'll do whatever you want. Please stay. Men are the opposite of this, including alpha males when they get one-itis. And so I did that and it worked. But then women would say, so you don't care? You'll just let me go? You won't care? No. All right. So then I had to learn very quickly, okay, I have to add a piece to this. And I teach this now. I've been teaching this for years. You don't just say, I'll let you go. You say, hey, if this is a deal breaker for you, I completely understand. I will let you go. I'll hate it. I'll be really sad. And it'll be a really rough day for me to know that I'm not going to see you anymore. It's going to really hurt me and I'm not going to like it. But I will let you go. I had to throw that piece in there to relate to a more emotional human being. I had to do it. And throughout my life, I've been in various scenarios where I've had to kind of pretend to be more emotional to match the emotional range of the normal people that I was talking to. Does that make sense? This sounds very Asperger-y. I don't have Asperger's, but I'm giving you the reality. And again, if you are hang on one second. If you are an socially uncalibrated, low emotion scale person, you'll never do this. You'll just be like Mr. Spock and be a robot and state the facts, and people will have their feelings hurt or get mad or don't do what they're told in certain scenarios. So here's the other thing. I have had at least 2 scenarios over the course of my 25-year business career where I had to pretend to get angry. Now, I don't get angry. Last time I was angry was probably 25 years ago. Really mad. Not frustrated, but mad. Like, God damn it, fuck. Truly angry was, over 20 years ago. And I mean that literally, okay? A, I'm a low emotional person. B, I live an amazing fucking life. I've constructed my entire life so I don't have to get angry. I don't care about politics in the United States. I don't care about one woman not doing what she's told because I'm non-monogamous. I don't care about one customer because I have many customers. I don't care about one business. I have several companies. I've diversified my life, alpha male 2.0. It's awesome. So I've constructed a life that makes me happy no matter what happens. But I've been in scenarios historically where things weren't getting done I needed done. And in a meeting so one scenario was online. I remember at least two of these, there's probably more. One was online and one was in real life. I'll give you both. In real life, it was when I was doing business consulting and it was in a meeting with some people who just weren't getting shit done they needed to get done. And I had tried all the usual management techniques and they weren't working. So I had to pretend to get mad. I wasn't mad. I wasn't mad at all. I was mildly irritated. Wouldn't get it done, but I realized, okay, these are normal emotional people who have things called emotions and they get mad and shit that I don't do. So I had to raise my voice and slam my fist on the desk and scream. Not scream, but yell and pretend to be mad. They're like, oh shit, I've never seen Caleb mad before. This is crazy. And guess what? Within a week, they got all the work done. It had taken weeks. So it worked. Now it sucks I have to do that, but again, I know that sometimes I'm dealing with normal human beings with a normal emotional range. I'll give you an online example. And there might be a handful of you listening to this podcast who may have been there when I did this. This was many years ago. This was, let's see, about 10 years ago plus. Maybe 11, 12 years ago I did this. Way back when I owned a pickup artist forum called Steadfast, Faster Seduction. And so it was if you didn't know, back in the pickup artist heyday of like Mystery and Neil Strauss, style, those guys, there was a very famous pickup artist forum called Fast Seduction, owned by a guy named Forum Handle. He basically sold it to another company. That forum went away. So what I did back then is I started a new forum called Faster Seduction, Steadfast for short. And then we got a whole bunch of people who used to post on the Fast Seduction forum into our forum, and we built it to a pretty decent forum until forums started dying and the pickup artists started going away many years later. But anyway, so I ran this forum. I was the owner of this forum, but I didn't moderate the forum. And the reason I didn't want to moderate the forum is I knew I would be much tougher. I would be banning people left and right. And you can't have a forum if you're banning everyone. It'll be a parking lot in a week. So I had other moderators do the moderation, and I stayed out of it. If people asked my opinion, I gave it to them. I used to say ban it. But this is why I didn't. So anyway, one day, at one point during this forum, this is 10, 11, 12, 13 years ago now. It's a long time ago. My name on the forums back then was Black Dragon, as many of you know. And we had a big problem with like trolls and idiots and people derailing conversations. It started getting to be a mess. And the moderators did their best to give warnings, and they ban people or suspend people sometimes. They really tried, and nothing was working. We had meetings about it. Nothing was working. I said, okay, this isn't working. I now have to pretend to get mad. So what I did back then, it was kind of fun, is that I changed my avatar to the Eye of Sauron from the Lord of the Rings movies. And I kept my name Black Dragon. And I said, all right, you motherfuckers. This was an announcement of the forum. It was all caps and in bold letters. I had never done anything like that in my life. Okay, and I've never done it since. I am now taking complete control of this fucking forum. If you piss me off with no fucking warning, I'm gonna ban your fucking ass. You better shut the fuck up. I am so fucking mad about this. God damn it. And I was making it all up. I wasn't mad at all. And so for 2 weeks, I took control of moderating the forum. And people said, fuck you. And I went, bam, and I banned them. And people were like, oh shit. And so I got numerous comments. And so whenever anyone started fucking around, I would jump into the thread as Sauron, big bold letters, and say, if you say one more fucking, I'm going to ban your ass. Don't test me, motherfucker. Big bold letters, big black letters, okay, all caps, the whole nine. Oh shit. And people said, wow, I have never seen Black Dragon mad like this. This is crazy. And it worked. Now, I wasn't mad. I was pretending. But it worked. In 2 weeks, I took the Sauron thing off my icon, went back to normal. Moderators went back, and it worked. The assholes shut the fuck up. Some of the trolls left. It worked great. And because it was the only thing that works, getting mad. Because I was dealing with normal people who get mad. Now, what's interesting is, again, I wasn't mad. At no point during that entire process was I mad. I don't care. I don't give a shit. That was kind of fun, actually. But I've had to do this. And if you are lower emotion type person, unfortunately, you're going to have to learn how to do this to interact with human beings, both in a business context, in a interpersonal context with friends and family. Okay, I've had to do this too with family members. My mom is very emotional. And just in the last years, I've learned to say, hey, I love you and I miss you. Things I wouldn't normally say. And I say them because I'm trying to relate to someone who's more emotional than me, right? Certainly having kids will help you do this because both of my children are much more emotional than me. My son especially. They just have more emotional personalities. So you have that. And also dating women, relationships with women. Women are probably more emotional than you because women are more emotional than men, generally speaking, right? Right. So if you're Mr. INTJ robot all the time, you're not going to be super successful with women long term. You can get laid, you can get pickup artists, have lots of one-night stands, but if you want long-term, happy, non-monogamous relationships like I have, you have to learn to relate to people who are, quote, normal. Because as a low-emotion person, if that's you, you are not normal. You're weird. I'm weird this way. Most people are not wired like you. Most people get fucking mad. Also, you have to manage your own irritation when people get mad or irrational. I am not constantly. On a regular basis, I am irritated by people in my personal life, people in my family, and people in my companies, all three of these. When something happens, they get all mad. I'm trying to calm them down. They're so fucking mad, and they're repeating themselves. They do all the irrational things that people do when they're mad. I'm like, oh, God. And I'm like rolling my eyes because I don't get this way. I stay rational, 99% of the time. I'm not saying I'm never irrational, but if I was never irrational, I'd have six-pack abs right now. Okay? Other than that, pretty rational guy, right? So you have to realize that other people are going to behave in ways that are not your behavioral patterns, and you can't do what a lot of young guys do, and some young girls do this. I was like this in my early 20s too. They're like, well, people are stupid. Fuck people. And then you become an incel and you live in your basement and you have no social life and you spend all day on Twitter getting more and more angry. That's not going to work either. I went through a phase like this. In my early 20s, I was an asshole and I hated everyone. I said, people are stupid. No one knows what the fucks they're doing. I hate the world. I hate everybody. Right? I went through this for a few years in my 20s, like many of you. Sadly, many of you are well over your early 20s and you're still like this. Finally, I don't remember when this was, maybe, mid-20s, somewhere in there. Probably when I started my company, full-time, my first business. I said, you know what? This attitude I have of everyone sucks, everyone's stupid, is not going to serve me. It's not going to make me happy. It's not going to make me money. It's not going to get me laid. It's not going to help me build a happy life. So I need to just take some deep breaths here and accept people for how they are. And instead of saying the world sucks and people are stupid, I hate people, I said, okay, people are more emotional than me. I'm the weird one. I am. So I have to calibrate my behavior to interact with people who are more balanced or more emotional. And that's just something I have to do. And it worked. It worked financially and it worked, in my relationship life, right? That's why reading books like How to Win Friends and Influence People are so critical for introverted people or low emotion scale people. It's very important. And also, another thing to be aware of is, I'll end with this, is that as a low emotion guy in terms of your dating life, and I've written articles about this, the more extreme you are in one direction, the more attracted you will be to women on the opposite extreme. I am the poster child for this. I have an extremely masculine personality. I have an extremely confident personality. I have extremely low emotion personality. So guess what kind of woman I tend to be really attracted to? On the farther side, right? Very feminine, girly girls. Women who are not super confident. Women who are very emotional. That's what I am naturally attracted to. Now the good news is if you're more balanced, you're going to be attracted to people who are more like you. I have a brother like this. One of my brothers is a very balanced personality, and every woman he dates, he's married now, is a woman who's basically just like him. And he has very little drama and conflict in his relationships. That's the good news, which is great. But his relationships are very boring, by his own admission, because he's with himself. How exciting is that? My relationships are super exciting and amazing. But Pink Firefly is an example of this. It requires more communication skill sets to make this work. So if you are severely on the low end of the emotion scale, you will tend to be attracted to women who are not only balanced, but very emotional. And some guys aren't aware of this dynamic and they have all kinds of relationship problems. If that's too much work, then you shouldn't date someone at that emotional level, have maybe less serious relationships with women who are more balanced. Or do what I did and learn the skill sets to interact with women and have long-term relationships with women who are very emotional. And I really am attracted to this, even though it bugs me. Because, there are times a pink firefly gets really emotional, and it could be positive or negative. It can be negative, like, oh, I broke a nail and her week is ruined. Happens. Or she gets a new pair of shoes in the mail, and she is so happy. She takes her shoes out, she goes, ah! And she bounces around the house like a little bunny rabbit for like 3 hours because she's so happy. I'm like, Jesus Christ. So even though it's irritating to me, it's still what I'm attracted to. It just is. So be aware of that aspect also, is that you're going to have attraction for people, women in particular, who are diametric opposites to you. And if that's the case, you need to learn how to interact with these women, as well as interacting with normal human beings who have these crazy, stupid things called emotions. If you want to get anything done in business, you're going to have to do this. You want to get anything done in your personal life, you're going to have to do that. There's no choice. Your only other option is to be a lissig incel who makes no money and lives in your basement and bitches on Twitter all day, and you never make any money and you never have a great sex life. That's your only other option. It's something you have to do. Now, people who have high emotions, they have their own set of problems. They have a completely different set of problems. People who are super emotional, but I'm not talking to them, I'm talking to you. And I have more of you in my audience than I have the reverse, right? That's it. Hope this has helped. I'll see you next podcast. Bye.